and a path to prosperity, I believe that America's best days can still be ahead, and I want to lead us forward. Join me now in the Reid Revolution.
Thursday morning, and glad you were with us here. Just a couple of minutes late getting started this morning. I'm John Reid, and this is the Reid Revolution as we discuss some of the issues that are happening. I've been watching the president this morning. He was on the National Prayer Breakfast. You know, that happens every year. And even when I was in D.C., I don't know. Who puts the thing on? It looked like Ben Cline, the congressman from Virginia, was there. I'd never been to it, which is surprising because usually I'll either find a way to go to something like that, which is significant. I think they do it in that big Hilton ballroom in Washington, the biggest ballroom in town. I think that's where it is. And, where Reagan spoke before the assassination attempt. But, they have all the big events there. But I don't know how I've never made the list for that. Trump is great when it comes to extemporaneous speaking. It's another reason why all these jerks who were talking about how he's in mental decline. Are you serious? Seriously, watch Fox News, watch Newsmax, watch C-SPAN, these unedited speeches that he gives. Most people just can't do that. They can't get up and speak in front of 500, 800 people, 1,000 people with essentially no notes. It's a message discipline. He doesn't stay on message. But he gets up and he talks, and he doesn't have notes. It's usually somewhat humorous. I didn't hear him say anything kind of crude at the prayer breakfast. The one criticism I would have of Trump's presentation is that, I'm totally fine. Maybe it's because I've grown up around a lot of different type of guys who let you know what they're thinking, sometimes in a very blunt, crude way, and it just doesn't faze me generally. But you got to know when to use certain language. Like, I screwed up once on the campaign trail. It was late at night. We were at a very, very fancy black tie dinner. And I told, it wasn't an off-color joke. It was a real story. It wasn't an off-color joke. But it was probably not the best thing to say in that environment. It was a little, the event was a little dressier and a little more formal. And I think I was the most entertaining person who spoke, but the story that I told, I realized halfway through, this probably isn't the best place to tell it. I don't think it offended anyone. I hope. I don't know. I hope it didn't offend anyone, but just my instincts were, I probably shouldn't have told this joke or this story because it was a little below where the event was. And Trump, I think, does that pretty frequently. You could say that that's a great thing because you get authenticity. He says the same thing if he's at the National Prayer Breakfast as he says at the VFW hall, or when he's in the diner the other day when he was talking to all the union workers. He says the same thing. There's something about that you don't have someone who's calculating and scripted, and everything's about kissing up or playing to this audience, and then you're a totally different person and a different character in another play. You could make that argument. So I didn't hear anything today that was bad. He started talking about the Olympics. Of course, the Olympics start tomorrow in Milan, and then in 2 years we have the Olympics in Los Angeles. And I thought it was, of course, as an Olympic guy, I find the Olympics really interesting. I thought it was great that he told the story about Obama going and sucking up to all these people trying to get the Olympics in the United States, and then they shafted him. So he doesn't like the Olympic people, which makes sense because I was certain that they were going, everybody around the world was kissing Obama's butt. And Obama went and made this presentation, and I think they had sucked up to everybody on the Olympic Committee, and then they screwed him over. And then the Olympic people, they awarded 2 Olympics at the same time, one to Paris and one to Los Angeles. but they flipped the order. I think if I remember correctly, I think it was supposed to be LA first and then Paris, but they wanted to shaft Trump. So, because Trump was president, and they wanted to make sure that even if he won a second term, right, that the Olympics wouldn't be in the United States when he was president. I mean, that is how crazy and toxic things are around the world. It's very interesting for me when I travel internationally. I pick and choose when I do this, but all these people are like, oh, what do you think of Trump? It's weird. Black Africans are generally the ones who admire Trump, I think, because they see the empire he's built and there's some sort of admiration. It's the white European EU types who have disdain for Trump. Weird, right? Weird dynamic. If he's such a racist, you would think that all of the black Africans who are aspiring to make something financially of their lives, that they would be the ones to hate him if he was really that bad. But it's this brainwashed UN EU crowd that doesn't like him. So I will sometimes push back, if I try to be a polite guest. I'm not looking to get into an argument or a fight with people. Oh, I'm so sorry about your president. I was like, oh, well, there's no reason to be sorry. The people of the United States are pretty tired of illegal immigration and bad policy, and some of the things you all are doing over here. We're heeding the warning. That sets them off. That's a polite way of telling them to screw off. Like, the EU is such a disaster, and you're stuck with bad decisions, like Spain choosing to allow 500,000 new sub-Saharan immigrants in, as if that's not going to cause a problem economically, culturally. I guess it's not a problem politically, because they think that they're letting in new voters through the back door, and that in 10 years, all of these people will be voting. What? You think they're all going to vote for your priorities? I got news for you. When you start importing new people with completely different traditions, completely different religious connections, a completely different outlook on life, a different work ethic than what you have traditionally seen in some of these countries. I don't get into the IQ thing, but I do think that there's something to be said for whether or not people can keep up with what's around them. I mean, it's like if you took me and dumped me at MIT, I'd wash out in a day. It's just not. I'm not geared for that. That's not my background. I would not be able to carry that conversation. I'm not embarrassed by it, but that's just not. Engineering and science, I'm interested, but I know that that's not where my strength is. So if you were to take me and say, oh, you know what, we're going to do some minority hiring. We're going to hire the dumb English guy, the communications guy, and bring him to the engineering school, or put him in one of the science projects, I would not be an asset for you. I'm honest enough to acknowledge that. We need to be honest enough to look at those circumstances and not destroy ourselves with some sort of maybe noble idea that everybody's the same. Everybody isn't the same. Everybody's not the same. I'm not the same as you. You're not the same as me. There are people who live in Southwest Virginia who will feed us. If there's a civil war, Southwest Virginia will be able to feed us. People in Richmond, in the city, they're going to be starving to death. So I respect the fact that everybody has kind of a different background and different skill set. In Spain, the people of the EU are now stuck because Spain has made this decision to let 500,000 migrants in, and I think that's going to be a problem. I think you're now tied together with the stupid bad decisions of other countries. I think that's going to be a problem. So the Trump speech today spent a lot of time talking about how he got the Olympics for LA. I don't know. I was kind of in and out of it. I don't know that he talked about how they tried to screw him over. So he gets the last laugh, doesn't he? That the Olympics will be in the United States during his second term. It just wasn't a consecutive second term. So all these people who hate him, who were really trying to make sure that he wouldn't have anything to do with the Olympics, now he's appointed a committee that I guess he runs, probably. He's the chair of it, I suppose, where he is going to micromanage certain elements of the Olympics coming to LA. And to be honest with you, that doesn't bother me at all. I mean, this guy knows how to put on a show, and he has been around enough. It's not like somebody wannabe who hasn't done anything. He knows how to do this stuff. And LA is a mess. California and Los Angeles are a mess. And a lot of these countries tend to get a huge influx of federal money from whatever country the Olympics is in, and that saves them at the last second. Like they fix everything at the last second. Kind of like when you invite somebody over for dinner and you're jamming stuff into the closet in your house. Like, oh, I meant to clean this up. I would love to wash it and put it away, but instead I'm just going to jam it into the bottom of the closet and hopefully nobody opens the door. That's kind of what they do with the Olympics. I don't think Milan is in a mess, but who knows with Italy. But it was great to see the president. I think he kind of stayed within the guardrails. But if anybody starts telling you that he doesn't have the ability to the mental capacity to be president, just tell them, watch one of these unedited speeches. If you've ever been around an old person who is in decline, and I have on a number of occasions, very personally, and probably you have too, you know that Joe Biden was incapacitated. He had no business running the local McDonald's, being the local librarian. He would admit if he was at the Tuckahoe Library, he would not have been able to help people find books in the Tuckahoe Library. That's how out of it he was. Low impact, low pressure job, pretty basic. He wouldn't have been able to do it. You know that. You know that. If you watch the guy, he was out of it. He could not manage a baseline job. And the fact that the Democrats kept him in as president to hold on to power, and they worked behind the scenes to just do whatever they wanted to do with this wink and a nod that the president approved is, I mean, I think it's shameful, but it should be illegal. I mean, this is not a country where you're stuck with the king until the king dies, takes his last breath. It's not Queen Elizabeth. I mean, even she seemed like she was put together until the last day of her life. Remember, she met the new prime minister and then died that night. She seemed like she was put together, mentally at least. I guess she was having physical problems. What we did with Joe Biden and what we tolerated and what the elite media people tolerated was awful during Joe Biden. And what they're doing now, where they're kind of gaslighting, I hate to keep bringing up gaslighting because people don't know what it is, but this is the perfect example. What you allowed with Joe Biden is what you're now accusing Donald Trump of, and it's discredited every day when this guy talks to the reporters, talks to the cabinet, talks to whoever is in the audience, unscripted for an hour at a time, and proves that he's got the mental brain power to do the job. Now, you may not like the decisions he's making, and you may not like some of the things that he is saying, but that's on you. The guy's not in decline. Speaking of old people, it snowed here. We didn't get mail for a couple of days. I went and got the mail last night, and I'm going to open this. I'm very distressed by this because, we started this show on January 5th, which was my 55th birthday. This is my AARP card. Now, I'm not joining AARP because I'm told by everybody that they're really left of center and that they supported Obamacare and all this craziness, which I don't want to have anything to do with. But this is very traumatic. So wait a minute, is this the AARP card? Does it look like this where you get, no. Well, they didn't even send me the card. It says the card is in here. Anyway, talk about something that makes you feel old. The AARP card? And then I'm walking through the airport down in Florida last week, and there are all these signs that say retirement housing 55 plus. Oh, for God's sake, I can't. How did this happen to me? I don't feel like that's right. I don't know. I guess my friends are 55, so I look at them and I don't, some of them are a wreck, but most of them aren't a wreck. Is 55 old now? I mean, if you're 25, of course you think 55 is old. You think it's geriatric. But I was a little surprised to get that in the mail. That hurt. There are a couple of things that kind of slap you in the face like cold water and wake you up like, what is going on? Getting the AARP notification that your card is enclosed was a little disturbing. All right, well, I thought I was going to have a shiny card. You know, the RNC sends me all these cards to try to make me feel like I'm a big deal. Oh, you're on the Presidential Advisory Task Force. And, you get this card that where are you going to show it? Go to the White House, show it. They'll arrest you and throw you in jail. Go to the Capitol. No one cares. It's just a way to hustle you for money. Let's see. I want to mention something about a controversial topic yesterday. And I can't go long today because we've got the famous talk show host Rob Carson on, and you've seen Rob on Newsmax, and he's got his radio show every day. So Rob is with us in a couple of minutes. So I don't want to overstep and crush him today or take time away from him because he's great, and he was so nice to me during the campaign. Had me on his show really frequently, and he is now a Virginia resident, so he's upset about what's happening in Virginia. So he's coming up in just a couple of minutes, and then the mayor of Virginia Beach, Bobby Dyer, and I think we're going to still have time to talk to Brad Mars about the defamation issue, the attorney and former member of the House of Delegates. But anyway, yesterday I said something. I knew it'd be controversial. I tried to be delicate. I tried to be polite. And you know me, if you listened on the radio and on television, I'm not one of these flamethrower people who's trying to trash other folks. I'm harsh with the Democrats. There's no doubt about it, and I don't apologize for that. I think they deserve the harshness. Look at what Abigail Spanberger's doing right now with ICE. She has kind of doubled and tripled down on the stupid mistake she made on the day of her inauguration, saying that state police and others, local officials who had these agreements with ICE, she's overruling that now. Hey, producer Dan, do you have that video? We'll just play it real quick of her saying that yesterday. What is the governor thinking? I don't understand this. She does realize it's a big state, and she talked about governing in the middle. I don't think this is a middle of the road issue. Do you have that video, producer Dan?
We have the video of the report from Wavy 10.
Yes, that's what I'm talking
about.
about.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, let me play it here.
Governor Abigail Spanberger is ending agreements that allowed state police and other state law enforcement to help with ICE immigration enforcement.
Last February, then Governor Glenn Youngkin signed Executive Order number 47, allowing VSP, trooper, and DOC officers to be deputized to help immigration and customs enforcement with immigration operations. On Inauguration Day, Governor Abigail Spanberger rescinded that executive order. Today, she says the agreements putting ICE in charge of Virginia law enforcement officers are over.
Certainly, there is no cause for me to say that any pullback of that 287G agreement has any impact on the ability to keep Virginians safe. And importantly, it means that Virginia state law enforcement have their full attention at the jobs that they were hired to do.
I mean, she's full of it. First of all, whoever's doing her comms work needs to not have her stand in front of some empty pipes that are dripping water. I don't know. As a comms guy, what are you doing with that? She looks not authoritative. So a little free advice that I would normally charge thousands of dollars for if I came in and was helping you fix your communication shop. Don't ever let the governor do a press event in front of some blank wall with piping. Little help there from the best. The Reagan team would never have allowed that. But anyway, she's full of it. You've got to allow the police to get rid of the criminal illegal aliens and to work hand in hand with the feds. And this is the problem. If you want to look at why we're seeing the violence in the streets that we've seen in Minneapolis and other cities, it's because of people like Abigail Spanberger, the governor, who refuse to allow an orderly process where the local officials, sheriffs, prosecutors, local law enforcement, down to the baseline level, are working hand in hand to identify the criminal illegal aliens and get them off the street in a thoughtful, legitimate, calm way. And unfortunately for her, tomorrow, we're going to talk about some of these cases. Vicki Manning with Restoration News did that deep dive on all of the stories of the real people who are in this state, not just in the country, but in this state, committing crimes against Virginians. I mean, you remember that story, and it kind of hit the headlines this week about the illegal who strangled a child, and they don't want to cooperate, strangled and tried to kill the child. I don't know if the child died or not. I don't remember the details. It was awful. And what the governor is saying is, we're not going to worry about that. We're not going to work with ICE to get this person out of the country. I'm sorry, Governor. That's reckless. That's irresponsible. It prioritizes the illegals over the citizens of Virginia. It's really a horrible policy. And I think the people who are whispering in this lady's ears are crazy left-wing leftists, and Virginians are going to be in greater danger because she's at the governor's mansion. You won't hear that from Hamas Ghazala. She's not going to say anything about it. She's a street agitator herself, dressed up in a nice suit, acting like she's a part of the establishment. I mean, there's a reason I call her Hamas Ghazala, because she's marching with the people who are trying to undermine Western civilization everywhere. And that's not me just saying. She chose to do that. I'm not being ugly about it. She made the choice to go into the street and march with the Hamas Palestinian crowd. And no one else seems to have the guts to hold her accountable for that. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I think it's disgusting. And the fact that Virginians didn't care and voted for her, okay, you made your choice, but there are consequences to that. And there are a lot of Virginians who are going to be in danger on a lot of different levels because of the leadership team that you put at the Capitol. And I'm not one of these people who's just going to go away and be like, oh, well, the choice has been made. Oh, yeah, you made the choice, and I'm going to call it out. Every stupid, bad decision that makes it more dangerous for Virginians, you can expect me to point it out, because this is not good. And at the end of the show, without being inappropriate, I feel horrible about Savannah Guthrie's situation with her mother apparently having been kidnapped. I mean, oh God, you watch poor Savannah Guthrie. I mean, she's just a very, don't you feel like this is the girl you knew in high school, or maybe the girl you dated in high school or college? And she just seems so nice and smart and everything. I mean, not a pushover. And you just empathize with her, I think. Unless you're a black racist, then you probably hate her because she's white. But I digress. I feel terrible for her. But I have this theory, could be totally wrong, about what's happened out in Arizona with her mother. And at the end of the show, I'll share that with you. It's pretty upsetting. But you got to stay for the end of the show to talk about that. We'll talk about the Olympics. Let's take a quick break because I want to be respectful of our guest time. Rob Carson, who has his national radio show, and you see him on Newsmax all the time. He's with us when we return on this Thursday here on the Reid Revolution. Thursday morning, and we're back on the Reid Revolution, and my friend Rob Carson from the Rob Carson radio program, who you see regularly on Newsmax, is with us this morning, and he is a new Virginia resident. So I'm so excited to have you as a Virginia voter and somebody in the Commonwealth. Now, I'm not hearing you, Rob. Is your mic up, or do we need to hit a button, or? You're there. You look great for this hour of the morning. I'm just not hearing you. Producer Dan, I'm not hearing you. Well, doggone it. That's frustrating. Well, while you guys fix that, I will just tell you, Rob was great during the campaign because there were so many issues that were bubbling up, Hamas Ghazala being one of them. And the rest of the press just they weren't going to cover it. They just weren't going to cover it. I was told after the fact, I don't remember this, but I was told after the fact, no one pays attention to the lieutenant governor's race. All right, well, that's weird. I mean, you're the next in line to be governor. Something happens to the governor, you're breaking the tie votes, and in a Senate that's 21-19, I mean, it'd be one thing if it was like 30-10. You know, there are 40 seats in the state Senate of Virginia, 30-10. Then it's probably irrelevant who the president of the Senate is, because you're really not going to get to cast the vote that will break the tie, right? They're gonna be senators who will make that decision for you. But when it's 21-19, it's actually pretty relevant. And I was trying to explain to people, you're going to have Hamas Ghazala up there looking at everything through the radical lens of radical Islam and the left, and you're not going to be happy with those decisions. So, if you think you're making a great decision, oh gosh, let's make history and let's have the first female Muslim leader statewide in America. I don't think that that's necessarily. It's not necessarily a horrible thing, but it's not. When it's a Democrat, it's not a good thing. Let me put it that way. There is absolutely no Muslim Democrat that I could vote for. There are Muslim Republicans that I can support, but there's no Muslim Democrat. Why do I say that? Because if you're a part of the Democrat Party, I assume that you hate America. Fundamentally, you don't like America. And Rob was willing to have me on the radio program on a pretty regular basis to cover some of these issues that nobody else would cover. And so I'm appreciative of that. And it got a little bit of traction on Rob's show, because a lot of these DC types are listening to talk radio, and they take their cues from things that audience is. Washington Post should have paid attention to what Rob Carson was talking about, because they just had to lay off 300 people on their staff, and it's because everybody's kind of walked away from.
Can you hear me now?
Reading the newspaper. I can hear you, Rob.
Oh my God!
We can. However, seems to be an echo.
It is a terrible echo. The feedback is bad.
All right, let me try.
How about that?
1, 2, 3,
I can still hear myself.
I think we fixed it.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Is it better now? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Hello.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Check.
1, 2, 3. Is it working?
I'm still hearing the echo of us, John, on his end.
Yes, I am too.
Okay. Okay.
Can I tell everybody who's watching right now, don't turn away. Because
1, 2, 3,
this is why everyone told me you don't want to do a live show on the internet, because you'll run into these problems and nobody will like it. And I just like doing things live. So sometimes there's trouble, and you just got to roll with it. And we don't have, unlike NBC Nightly News, where they got 20 people who were in this situation would be freaking out. All right, I hear you, Rob. I think we're good.
I think we're good.
Do we have it?
I think we're good.
Do we have it?
All right. All right. I'm going to hide myself, John. Rob, thanks for your patience.
Thank you.
Sorry about troubles
getting
on here.
Move on. Let's go.
All right. How are you?
I'm doing
everything
good.
golden?
Thank you. Yeah,
excellent. By the way,
thank you.
Yeah, the AARP card, the AARP card. They started sending me at 50, right? And I said, you know what? I'll take the AARP card when I retire. And that's going to be about 10 years from now minimum. And honestly, I would never belong to the AARP because of what they did with Obamacare. They can kiss my butt. They can kiss my butt.
When the decisions are being made, it seems like AARP goes the wrong direction. At least
I don't even give a rat's behind about it. I have no problem with eventually living in a community with a golf cart. Hell yeah. But no interest in behaving like a retired person.
Right. Well, you've moved to Virginia now. The last time you were in the Mid-Atlantic, you were in Maryland, you've told me. So, God, man, I'm sorry that you've come here and now you've got the leftist, maybe communist takeover of the state.
Well, a couple things. First of all, this is what happens when you put up a terrible gubernatorial candidate who has the personality of an armadillo. I'm just going to say it. Terrible candidate, and the ex-governor has to answer for that. It was awful. Bad candidate. You were great. Jason was great. Candidate, terrible. There was some other crap going on, too. That said, Abigail Spanberger misrepresented herself. When you are a political party, you have a platform that you run on. You have to be honest about that platform. This is why communists don't win. If you have it on the platform, they don't vote for communists. So I am going to do everything I can, as long as I am a resident of this state, to challenge her legally for lying about what she was going to do when she got into office, and the Democrat Party pulling this crap. This should not be legal. You have to adhere to the platform you present. You cannot completely change everything up when you get into leadership. There you go.
Is there anything legally to do? It seems like it's the political bait and switch that
I'm not a lawyer, but I'm going to tell the GOP you got to get off your butts, because the people of Virginia are mad about this. They did not expect this. They do not want this. And if you want some hell to be raised, you better get on figuring this out, GOP. It has to be challenged legally. We have to consider recall petition eventually. But I'm hoping I've already reached out to Tom Fitton about this. You cannot misrepresent yourself. You cannot unveil a party platform after the election. It is not legal. It should not be acceptable at all. For instance, as a Republican, you could say, we don't completely oppose every, we want every restriction on abortion. Abortion, you cannot have an abortion. There's no RU 486. There's none of this. None of you can't unveil that after the election if you said that you would allow some exceptions, okay? You can't just change everything when you get into office. That is disingenuous, and I believe also should be illegal.
You know what's surprising to me is this governor, who never served in the House of Delegates locally or the state Senate. She served in the Congress. She was my congresswoman for a while, pretty radical in there. Yeah. I mean, I always try to get along with people personally, even if I hate their position, so I try to be polite and everything. But if I were the governor, you can't control all 140 people, but I would call everybody in and say, let me tell you guys something. I'm the governor. I'm going to screw with you if you screw with me. Do not bring up all these crazy whack job ideas. Here's my guy, who is my legislative liaison. If you're about to put a bill in, you better have called him first to make sure that this is cleared through my office. Because if you don't, I'm going out publicly and denouncing you. And she hasn't done that. Why is
She's down with all of it.
You think so? Yeah.
She lied. She is a liar. She is a crazy cat lady Karen, just like the woman who got elected in New Jersey, just like, the mayor of Seattle. She is of that political ilk. She has this is what she wants. This is what they said what they had to say to get her elected, and they got in there, and now they are unveiling things that they had always wanted, their wish list, their leftist wish list, and this is what it's all about. She knows exactly what is going on.
Well, the only way to fix it is to start winning elections again. I mean, maybe if your legal challenge.
We got to do something before the next gubernatorial race, or Virginia's going to become Maryland.
We've got I think this April 21st gerrymandering vote. I mean, we'll see whether the Supreme Court does anything with that. I think what I'm told is all the judges are terrified of the Democrats. And look, if I had an attorney general who threatened to put 2 bullets in people's heads and kill their kids, I would probably be a little concerned about crossing them too. That's another reason you shouldn't have elected that person. But what is going on, especially with fresh set of eyes, with the Republican voters across the state? Because we're losing all the special elections. The turnout is terrible in Virginia and elsewhere. Is it only these people are only loyal to Trump, or they're exhausted, they're humiliated, they just don't want to participate anymore? Because they're going to be really sad in another year if we lose a whole bunch of more elections, and there's no way to come back from it.
I guess they become complacent to some degree. Mm-hmm. Things were fairly good under a Republican governor. You got a surplus. Things were pretty good under Glenn Youngkin, and I think they went into the last gubernatorial election thinking that we were in good shape. John, I thought you were going to win. I thought you were going to win for sure. I followed your campaign very closely.
The polls indicated that it was possible.
And I think I also question the election results. I know you're not supposed to because that's disinformation, but I'm hoping they'll look into those as well. And the Democrat Party wants to make voter fraud. They want to codify it in the state of Virginia. By the way, they want to steal elections. They want to allow NGOs to take in all sorts of money and never be questioned, even if they're fraudulent. It is a Democrat, communist, Marxist wish list there passing through, but I think that it's a wake up call for people across the state. Obviously, the election of that just happened was because of Fairfax, Loudoun counties, and Donald Trump cutting a lot of government employees. I think that was a lot of it, for sure. But I'm hoping that this is smelling salts for Republicans in Virginia, thinking that Virginia was always going to be. Nobody ever dreamed that Virginia would become Maryland. Nobody ever dreamed that Virginia could become Maryland, but now we have there's a real possibility. Mm-hmm. I lived in Maryland for 12 years. I moved to Virginia because I said no way to Maryland. 10 years ago, Lake Forest Mall, Montgomery County, shut down. I go there to my old neighborhood. It's still shut down. There are fences around it. By my kids' old elementary school, they're selling fruit out of the pickup trucks like in Tijuana. All right, there's a homeless encampment in the woods behind my house now. Okay, yeah. It's dreadful. So normally when you cross the Potomac, you drive into Maryland or to Virginia, it's Oz. It's Oz. There's a Citibank building. Oh my God, in heaven, look at the malls. They have malls that are open. Oh my God. Right. That's why I moved to Virginia. Nobody thought Virginia could do this. And I'm hoping it's a wake-up call. It better be a wake-up call. And I'm going to tell you, as long as I live in Virginia, I'm going to be in case you didn't notice, I'm going to be a little vocal about it, John.
I'm glad you are.
We are not going to take this. Bullcrap. We are not going to take this. I chose Virginia. I watched Virginia longingly from my house in Montgomery County. And thought, my God, why did I move here? Mm-hmm. And when I finally get here, this nonsense happens. Yeah. But you cannot, as a political party, run on another platform and spring on a completely different platform when you take office. There has to be something we've got to do about it. Do I have all the answers to it? No, I don't have a law degree. But I'm telling you, Republicans, you cannot roll over on this. You've got to fight this for everything you're worth. You've got to.
This is it. I made a commitment partially because my parents were so adamant. Wherever you are, you got to vote in the November election. Yep. You just can't. When I was overseas, I would fly home to vote, or I would get the absentee ballot and take it with me and send it back so it made it in time. I voted. I don't think I've missed an election since I was 18. I'm 55 now. And it seems weird to me, the people who claim so frequently to be very passionate about moral issues, economic issues, all of the things that Republicans talk about, that they would kind of pick and choose when they're engaged. When you contrast it with the leftists, who, they will crawl over glass to show up and to drag their grandmother. And I hate to say it, there's some of them who I think will cheat. If you give them half an opportunity to cheat, they will find a way to cheat.
The Democrat Party
want it more.
Dude, the Democrat Party hasn't won an election in decades. They don't win elections on ideas. They win elections on fraud. That's how it happens around the rest of the country. They win it by mail-in voting. They win it by lying. They do not win on ideas at all. They're presenting nothing in the midterms, but we're going to impeach Donald Trump, and we are going to use the 25th Amendment. Both nonsensical. They have no ideas. They're morally and intellectually bankrupt. They have not, like I said, they have not won an election on ideas in a decade minimum.
Well, you and I see it that way, but I get the impression that there is an entire younger demographic, maybe excluding the Charlie Kirk crowd, that is really enamored by the concept of socialism, if not flat out communism. I'm shocked how many people have told me during the campaign who were adversarial, I am a communist, to my face. And I said, God, I wouldn't. You know how many your people have killed in the last century? I don't think I would be telling everybody that.
Well, they're ignorant of history. That's why they did that to the schools. Speaking of, but did you see that the DOD is pushing back on the wokeification of VMI? Did you see that?
I think they're going to have to take the place over.
DOD is saying, we are not doing this crap. You are not going to wokeify this prestigious institution. It's not going to happen, especially with Pete Hegseth there. That crap ain't happening. He's already said no more men in dresses in the military. And so I think that's a really positive step. And maybe there's going to have to be something from the federal level with regard to funding of the state of Virginia to send a powerful message that you're not just going to allow the Democrat Party to do this. I'm hoping something like that could be in order as well.
Trump's going to cut him off based on what the governor, Abigail Spanberger, did yesterday, cutting off
every
ICE.
damn
And
time.
I think that's the appropriate thing to do, unfortunately.
Every dime, 100%.
All right.
By
Rob,
the way, I'm not particularly happy with the snow removal in Northern Virginia. The amount of taxes you pay. I live in Alexandria, and you still can't find a parking space because the snow is still on the street. It's kind of ridiculous.
What would they do in Philadelphia or Boston? I've never lived in those cities. What would they do there that we're not doing here?
It would be off much sooner. They would already have road graders and whatnot in there. They would have front end loaders and whatnot loading into the dump trucks. What they are doing finally here, but it's that late. But John, I know I've kind of come in hot today because Virginia has.
It's okay. I expect that from you.
Well, I do funny too, but I didn't move to Virginia for this nonsense. And unless it gets turned around, I won't live in Virginia. I will, but at the same time, I've heard other Virginians say, we're not going to move from this state because of this nonsense. So I'm in it to fight it. And I've always loved this state. I've always appreciated this state. Now that I live in it, I'm not about to let it be taken away from the freedom-loving people of Virginia. Virginia has a history of freedom, liberty, and all of that. And we cannot let this glorious state become like Maryland. I think the only reason that has happened is because the Democrat Party lied to get into office, and we have to fight it for every. I'm talking. Resist, stop, do not allow this to happen. I signed a petition the other day about challenging this, and there are petitions going around right now. And I would encourage you, don't wait till the election. I know you got the eyes on the prize there, but we've got to do everything we can to look what the Democrat Party's doing to C-block all of the things that Donald Trump is trying to do. We need to do that in Virginia. We need to do it in Virginia.
There's got to be an effort to sound the alarm. And, polite people don't talk about this stuff, and we've got to stop being polite about it. Got to talk about it. It's uncomfortable, maybe, but you've got to talk about it. Rob Carson.
Yeah, I won't be. I'll be polite as possible, but honestly, got to fight it. John, I want to thank you for having me on today. Big fan of yours. I know you have a bright political future. I don't think the last election. I think was an anomaly, to be quite honest. And I think great things are coming, but we've got to come together and we've got to resist this nonsense.
I know you will be one of the strident voices, and we need you.
Yes, sir.
Rob Carson,
Yes,
thank you. We'll be listening for the Rob Carson Show. Look for him on Newsmax. Thanks, Rob. All right, let's take a quick break. He was great during the campaign. I mean, if every other reporter in town wasn't covering something, I sent a note to Rob, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I'll talk to you." So let's take a quick break. We got the mayor of Virginia Beach, Bobby Dyer, who's going to talk about a proposal. I'm telling you, it's going to bankrupt all of these localities, and guess who has to fix that? Unlike a private business, you're going to have to fix it, and the Democrats know this. Bobby Dyer in just a moment on the Reid Revolution. All right, back in the Reid Revolution, and the snow is still on the streets in Richmond. Apparently, according to Rob, it's on the streets in Alexandria and Arlington. You just can't get rid of this stuff. What's it like in Virginia Beach? The mayor of Virginia Beach, who was another person who was really great to me during my campaign for lieutenant governor, Bobby Dyer, joins us now. And Bobby, in my mind's eye, it's always sunny with everybody running around in bathing suits at Virginia Beach. Because honestly, the first time I ever went to Virginia Beach, outside of the summer, and I vacation there all the time in the summer, but the first time I went in the winter was when I was running for office. Like, this is a totally different experience. What's it like right now?
I'll tell you what, the streets are clear, and for a change,
because they've got a great mayor.
Cantori didn't show up this year, so that was a good thing. But we weathered this storm, and And let me put it this way, the people of Virginia Beach, we've weathered many storms. We have a great city, and we're very proud of it. We're very proud of the people.
You've had some really fantastic economic developments. I have not been to an event in that dome, which doesn't have a dome, but there used to be a dome. I mean, it looks amazing, and I want to go to a concert or some sort. I was hoping we could have a political rally there. But how is that project doing? And it's connected to what, a water park?
Oh, good God. Yeah, I'll tell you what, it was an 8-year odyssey getting this thing through between the COVID, inflation, and everything else. But I'll tell you what, it really put us on the map in a very big way. And I think it was part of the reason that recently the New York Times named Virginia Beach one of the top 52 destinations in the entire world for people to come. And we get kudos from U.S. News and then also other publications that Forbes magazine, that we're one of the top places to live. But it's not the mayor, it's the people. It's the people that live here, work here, have their businesses here, but most of all, the people that give their time, talent, and treasure to help other people. It makes us unique.
Well, when I look at kind of the situation in Richmond, and this is my hometown, so I can be critical I mean, it might offend people, but I don't care. Richmond's stuck in a lot of ways. You don't have to comment on this because you probably got to deal with Mayor Avula, and I like him personally just fine. But Richmond's stuck. It doesn't seem to be able to move to the next level. I can't really identify a project like that surf park or something that would generate interest from the New York Times or Forbes magazine or U.S. News. I think we're a little stuck. And your point about people who are civic minded and proud of where they live and put their money and their effort into creating projects that will not just get outside attention, but make life better for the people who live there. I would love to see us be able to gig some of our corporate citizens and get them engaged.
Well, the whole thing, John, is about relationships. And it's about working with people, giving the people the opportunity. We had a dedication of, Rudder Mills, is a sponsor of the Dome now.
Of the Dome.
And one of the things I mentioned in Virginia Beach is a can-do city. We're open to business. We had a big Amazon plant here open up. And I'll tell you what, we're weathering an economic storm. We're like every city in the nation with housing problems, with inflation problems, and complaints of higher taxes. But once again, I think Virginia Beach is blessed with a quality of life, and especially appreciated by many of the military people that live right here in Virginia
Well,
Beach.
speaking of Amazon and higher taxes, I don't know what you thought when you saw the House of Delegates contemplating a 4.8% tax on every Amazon delivery, every Uber Eats, I mean, I think people should be outraged about that. We threw the American patriots threw the tea into Boston Harbor over some little minor tax on tea, and we're allowing the Virginia House of Delegates, led by the Democrats, to talk about almost a 5% tax on every delivery to your house. I think that's insane.
Well, I'll be honest with you, John, that the main problem we're having now is where they're trying to impose collective bargaining on us.
Right.
Right now, collective bargaining is the law, but the law right now basically says that the locals have the option. We had the fire union, drop the card and try to get there, and we turned it down. But I can tell you that the mayors of the 757 say, yes, we have collective bargaining on the books, but give us the option. And, it would have been nice if, the folks in Richmond communicated with us and we would have communicated our concerns. And as you're aware, John, Fairfax, a couple of years ago had a huge budget surplus. But when they put in collective bargaining, from what I understand, they turned out to be $300 million underwater.
Right.
They had to raise
not
their
a little
mill
bit,
rate
but a lot.
4.5%.
Yeah.
They had to cut the budget. They had to put in a food tax. Be careful what you pray for, because that's the biggest fear that we have. And if we're going to be dedicated to reducing the cost to the to the average person, We can't be raising taxes to support. But once again, we take care of our people. Fire and police came to us and had reasonable requests, and we honored them without collective bargaining.
If you escape from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, you may already be familiar with what collective bargaining does and how it blows up the budget. But walk me through what you're really worried about if you get this jammed down your throat in Virginia Beach.
Well, I'll tell you what, you can tell by my accent, I'm from the People's Republic of New Jersey. Still say coffee, walk, talk, chocolate, okay? If you took my house in Virginia Beach, which is on a lake, Lake Christopher, and moved it to a similar situation in New Jersey, I would be paying that every quarter. And we have a lot of people, granted the people that have lived here for years, see their taxes going up, up, up. But by the same token, people moving down here from Northern Virginia, from New Jersey and that area, when
You'd be paying
Governor Senator
annual
Allen
property
moved
tax
down,
every quarter.
pardon, I would probably pay that every quarter.
Oh, God.
Yeah, taxes up north with especially that are union dominant, it's crazy, John.
And the reason the taxes are so high are to pay for those local employees who, I mean, are we screwing these people over? Are we not paying them enough? Are we not giving them benefits that they would expect if they lived in New Jersey? I mean, there's got to be a balancing act here, right?
Well, let me tell you, when Chris Christie took over as governor years ago, the teachers union, retirees were making low six figures as retirees, and had the state on the brink of fiscal insolvency. And that
was a pension.
Again, maybe if Richmond would just do a study to figure out the fiscal impact, take a look at best practices of other cities throughout the nation, but even what happened in Fairfax, I think it would benefit as well.
Yeah. Well, it was striking to me, and one of the reasons I wanted to reach out to you was that all the mayors, I think everybody in Hampton Roads who's in a leadership position who's got to deal with these issues, not just talk about them, not just suck up to people and say, "Oh, I'm gonna give you more money," but then those of you who have to balance a budget every year, it looks like Republican and Democrats alike have stepped up to say, "Hey, give us the option. Don't force this down our throat." I haven't seen a lot of that in my lifetime.
But I'll tell you what, John, once again, I'm a Reagan Republican. He worked with Tip O'Neill, got things done. I worked with Governor Northam. We got the beaches open at the height of COVID. But the one thing about the 757 mayors are unified. We're getting along. I wish folks in the Beltway and Richmond, would see that getting along and building relationships, putting all partisanship aside, is the way that we should be going.
Yeah. Well, I hope they'll pay attention to you because I do think we're teetering. I mean, I guess once you cross that line, it takes a while to figure out how bad it is, and then it's almost impossible to undo it with the employees.
Yeah, putting the genie back in the bottle is not a way to go.
I know you got to run. What's coming up in Virginia Beach when we get to summer? I'm trying to think of summer as the sub-freezing temperatures are so unpleasant right now. What's coming up?
I'll tell you what, John, we just had the police chief run our crime numbers, and I'll tell you what, they are excellent. We are one of the safest, if not the safest city our size in this nation. We're looking forward to maybe.
What are y'all doing? You locking people up?
Pardon?
Are you locking people up, unlike in Richmond? Or?
I think people know it. But once again, as the actual crimes, are down, and we're working at, the mayors are all working together in the 757. We're sharing, experiences, and crime does not honor any border.
Right.
So working collaboratively with other cities, it's the way to go. It's what people should be doing.
Yeah. Bobby Dyer, the mayor of Virginia Beach, thank you for your help last year, and keep sounding the alarm so that we.
Well, I'll tell you what, John. When you come this summer, you give Bobby D a call. We'll get together to break some bread.
I will do it with you. All right. Thanks, Bobby.
God bless you, brother. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. All right, let's take another quick break. And producer Dan, you let me know what we want to do here, what would typically be heading towards the close of the show. What's the deal here?
Yeah, I've let our purported next guest know that we're ready for him. So I'm hoping that he'll be signing in shortly, and we could come back, the two of us, and as soon as he gets
and go
on,
through some of the things we're going to talk about.
Yeah,
Terrific.
yeah.
All right, let's take a
Okay.
quick break. We'll be back on the Reid Revolution. Ooh, we're just moving through the people today, producer Dan. Lots
We
of
are indeed.
interesting folks.
Yeah, we had some. We don't need to get into the inside baseball
No.
of the show necessarily, but we had some moving parts this morning, and we managed to juggle them okay.
All good. Well, look, this may be the time to bring up this kind of uncomfortable story that nobody wanted to talk about it at the beginning because we were just hoping that it would all work out okay. Savannah Guthrie, who is the host of the Today Show, seems like a really nice lady. That's the key for these morning shows, I think, is to have your neighbor, the neighbor that you like, not the neighbor who's always in your business and messing with you. Savannah Guthrie, doesn't she seem like, I'm sure she's a Democrat
type. Yeah, the
I mean, there's
Curry
nobody
girl next
on
door,
there's
smiling
nobody
neighbor,
on
yeah.
morning TV or national TV who's not a left of center. I think probably.
Oh no.
But Savannah Guthrie seems like a nice lady. I would like to know her. That's one of the key things. Somebody that you'd like to know. Her mother appears to have been kidnapped. I guess everybody's saying now that it was a kidnapping. She disappeared on the 31st. Today's the 5th of February. And based on TMZ, see, now this is one of these things about TMZ. They apparently released the purported ransom note without talking to the cops. So you know what the cops are going to say. If you're a reporter, remember I told you I taught the ethics class about being a journalist?
Yeah.
This is one of the things you would deal with as a local reporter, as a national reporter. Somebody tips you off and gives you a ransom note. And it's a big story, and it'll get you a lot of attention. You'll win an Emmy Award, or minimally, your station will get a lot of attention. In the case of DMZ, their website was probably, boom, millions and millions of people checking TMZ because you've got a story that nobody else has. I've heard that TMZ pays everybody for this stuff. Now, see, that's a different ethical dilemma. Is it okay to pay people to either break the law or do something unethical in their profession? Like, would we all agree that if you're a cop and you find out that there's a ransom note, it's probably, I think, unethical, maybe illegal for you to release the information? Of course, I'm making an assumption here. I don't want to impugn anybody. I don't know how they got it.
Well,
but
maybe
TMZ talks about it, and now that very important bit of information is out there. And I think people I used to read a lot of books about this kind of stuff, the FBI investigative unit. And then we've had all these TV shows. There's certain things that once they're out there, it really hinders the ability of the cops to negotiate and get the person back safely. I think that's a safe statement.
Well, maybe we can pause that thought. I'm trying to sort of put my hand in the camera here because our next guest is in the lobby here. I can let him in.
Well, I don't know. Brad Mars is an attorney. He's handled a lot of cases.
Yeah.
I guess Brad, welcome back. The former delegate, Brad Mars, is with us. This was not the topic we were going to talk about. I don't know if you heard what we were saying.
Uh-oh.
Have you been following the Savannah Guthrie, her mom being kidnapped in Arizona case?
I've seen news reports about it.
TMZ released the ransom note. There have been a few people who've said TMZ is notorious for paying people off for material from police offices. Maybe they paid the radio. If they did it, I'm not saying they did that. I don't know. There's no way for me to verify it. Is that, I mean, that's unethical, if not illegal, don't you think? To release that kind of material?
Unethical, perhaps, in the sense that they're putting their desire to do business and thereby make money ahead of what law enforcement has decided in terms of what's the smartest thing to do
to get this lady back.
For pursuing the case, trying to recover her alive, and trying to bring the perpetrators to justice. The other thing about ransom notes is they aren't necessarily from the party who did the deed. With the high publication of this, it's possible that other people are being opportunistic and trying to get money who had nothing to do with the events. Yeah. And it's just like a phishing scam or the Nigerian prince scam or any of those things. You're not necessarily talking to the right people. And it's to me very irresponsible. I'm not aware of it being illegal. And in any event, I guess that would be governed more by Arizona law, where I can't claim any particular expertise.
I know, yeah. Well, it seems unethical to me. And these are the dilemmas that I would pose to my students at VCU. Okay, let's say you're in this situation. You're presented with something you know is a good story. It will be, it'll get you clicks. It'll get you attention. Everybody will be watching your show for 3 minutes at 6 o'clock. And, the news director will slap you on the back and say, wow, that was terrific. But what are your professional ethical responsibilities? And then I found, it's one reason I left the business, I just kind of felt like I was regularly in conflict with my own personal moral code with what modern journalism is doing. And that was becoming a real problem for me. I didn't sleep well at night.
There are stories from World War II about reporters being brought in for things like details of the upcoming D-Day invasion, and not one reporter leaked it ahead of time.
Right.
No one would ever consider doing that today. You would never expect any of them to keep it confidential, much less put a lot of people in a room and hope that not even one of them would leak it. I mean, it would absolutely come out. So, and immediately, everybody would be trying to beat everyone else to the punch. So we're in different times.
Yeah. Well, that's why Pete Hegseth, who came from Fox News as an anchor and reporter himself, and I think that's why he said, to hell with this. We're not letting anybody, he's purged a lot of the media that's at the Pentagon. It's just not the same robust group. But instead of covering the stories, I think they were really adversarial, not questioning, which is appropriate for regardless who's in there, Republican or Democrat. Questions can't be seen as something that's wrong for a reporter to do. It's when you realize that they have become the adversary and they're making up things and trying to gum up the works. That's when I do think if you have to deliver as an elected official and appointed official, then you got to make the decision about whether you play that game.
What came out in the Pete Hegseth situation was the fact that a lot of journalists were being allowed pretty much free rein to wander the halls of the Pentagon and stick their heads in and talk to people for anonymous sources. And, that is extremely damaging. In the bureaucracy in Washington is so very large that at any given time, there are people who support their superiors and people who actively undermine them. And, giving aid and comfort to insubordinate underlings is a dumb way to run your organization. Yeah. You're basically saying, please shoot me in the foot. That doesn't mean that they're not invited to press conferences. It doesn't mean they can't write what they write. It doesn't mean they can't ask tough questions.
Or pick up the phone.
It does mean that to the extent I've got illegal leaking going on, I'm taking reasonable safeguards to stop that for the sake of national security. Mm-hmm. And national security is a real thing. It probably nowhere more so than in the Pentagon. So
yeah. And at the White House where they've restricted some of that. Well, we metamorphosized from our original topic into this one, from Savannah Guthrie to the Pentagon and D-Day. So let me get back to the reason that I invited you. You watched, yesterday I had Matt Gaetz, the former congressman, on. I thought it was a really interesting interview. People were mad at me for having him, but look, I'd be willing to have people on. I mean, if Ralph Northam wanted to come on, I'd be respectful of him, and I think he made a lot of mistakes, but I would be delighted to hear his explanation for what was going on behind the scenes. I'm fine with talking to people, and I like Matt. Matt was really good to me during the campaign, and I had this instinct that a lot of the stuff that's been said about him, if not all of it, is totally bogus and made up. Now, I don't know that I can prove that, and I'm not going to spend a day trying to figure it out, but I was fine talking to Matt. But he was one of the examples of somebody who has been, I think, aggressively and deliberately defamed by political people, which isn't unusual perhaps, but then that has amplified and exacerbated with this new social media world that we live in. You know what happened to me during the campaign, which I'm still unfortunately suffering some of the consequences from. I have to explain it to people and explain that it was all made up. But and when Democrats are calling you a Nazi during a campaign where people are already threatening to kill you, I actually am. If anything offended me, it was calling me a Nazi, because I know that was a signal to the crazies, go kill this guy. And I'm pissed about it. I'm really mad, and I'm going to make that clear at the right moment. But the legal ramifications of that, it seems to me we've got laws on the books in Virginia and nationally that just don't address the realities of what we're facing. Walk me through what you consider if somebody comes to you and says they feel like they have been wronged with malice, defamed, libeled.
What the real problem you have with the spread of internet crud is the anonymity of it.
Yeah, that's true.
There are fake usernames, there are bots that replicate messages, and you don't know who's doing it. It's extremely hard to find out who's behind it. Here in Virginia, for years we've been the headquarters of AOL. AOL has massive staff fielding subpoenas to get at the identities of account holders, and other internet service providers get those too, and often they assert First Amendment grounds. But generally speaking, I share with you, having been accused of being a Nazi during my political time, I think it's one of those things that has been raised so often that certainly there's a certain rabid dog element out there that feeds on that. But most of the people we know, and most of the reasonable people in the middle, just kind of roll their eyes and go, "Oh, there they go again," to quote your former mentor. So I don't know that that's much. Incendiary language, assessments fall under the heading of opinion also. And
if you say somebody is irresponsible, reckless, and crazy, okay, that's your opinion. You may or may not be able to. If somebody said, "Well, tell me why you think that," and they can't, all right, now you've exposed them. But maybe they've got an opinion that's based on something they can reference. But I do think it's turning into something different where there's complete fabrication, sometimes with very, they're accusing you of doing something that is, if not illegal, so inappropriate that the accusation does real harm to the person. Is there no way to fight back against that?
What I would tell you is anything that's considered opinion is just out there and nothing you can do about it. So if someone calls you a Nazi and they're using, purple prose to attack you with assessments, if they say you're an ultra right winger or an ultra left winger, if you were talking about AOC or something like that, it's not something that anything can really be done about it. It's all part of the public discourse.
What if they call you a pedophile?
Yeah, a pedophile is a different thing.
That's an illegal act.
Right. It's a felony. And any time, first of all, the question is, are you talking about factual information? Are you accusing someone with factual information? And the next thing is, how bad does it hurt? And any time you accuse someone of a felony, a crime of, as I say, moral turpitude, that's considered defamation per se. It can be slander if it's spoken, libel if it's written, but it's defamation per se to accuse people of pedophiles. You and I talked before we came on about, Donald Trump getting upset with Trevor Noah for lumping him in with Bill Clinton and suggesting he'd been on Epstein's Island in the Caribbean, when in fact there is no known evidence that Trump was ever on the island, although it appears Clinton probably was. I'm waiting for someone to say Trevor Noah said without evidence that Trump was on the island.
Yeah.
Because anytime they report about Trump, he said this without evidence.
Without evidence, to discredit him immediately, as if the
unnamed
reporter
AP
is the judge,
writer,
jury, and
undermining him in the story. But and so Trevor Noah said that. I think in Trump's position, it's a failing of his that he fires off at all of this. He feels like he can't let the camel get its nose under the tent. He has to fight each and every insult that he ever gets. I don't agree with that
insult
approach.
versus accusation.
Right.
I'm glad he's got
Right.
the money, and I assume he's got 10 lawyers on retainer, and he can sick them on people. Somebody's got to fight back.
Right.
Somebody's got the resources to do that. And
Well,
when I was
the-
on the
the-
TV
the
station,
problem-
Brad, the
problem with
rule
the
for
Trevor
us
Noah
was,
thing, yeah.
is there a legal document? I'm not going to go on the evening news at Channel 8 and accuse someone of something. But if they have been charged in court, then we can refer to the charging document with our report on the news. But just reporting rumors, we could destroy everybody in town if we just reported rumors.
Right. Well, there's the initial speaker, there's the platform they use to speak. So if you're Trevor Noah, it would be him personally and potentially his network or the Grammys sponsors. And then there's people who republish, which is the news. So if you're reporting that Trump attacked Trevor Noah because of what he said, then as part of that, you get to report what it is Trump's upset about, which
Right.
is one of the problems with attacking defamation, is it has that sort of, you remember the Brer Rabbit story about the tar baby, and it's an example of no matter how much somebody deserves to be punched, sometimes the more you punch, the worse things get for you.
Right.
When you go after someone in this, it tends to kind of pick at the scab by recirculating the news about what the guy said in the first place. So in a way, you're playing into the hands of the people like Trevor Noah, whose basic reason to exist at this point is only secondarily to push a political point of view. He's trying to keep a job, stay relevant, make money. And to do that, he needs to be a celebrity. He needs to constantly be in the public eye. And I think Trump
So how do we fix that equation? Because I agree with you. I think Trevor Noah knew exactly what he was doing. He repeats or says something that's provocative, if not totally erroneous, and loves the fact that Trump called him out, because that immediately gets him several million people who will defend Trevor Noah just because they hate Trump. But
Plus,
the
your
law
positive
doesn't
is
seem to fix that.
equal in the public square, which is a dumb thing to do for him. I mean, he's not Trump's equal in the public square, but
Right.
Trump basically put him out there as if he were, that he's somebody that catches Trump's notice and bothers Trump and gets under his skin. I think Trump would be well advised to keep his powder dry with a lot of these people. But, because most of us, we just kind of roll our eyes at this stuff. But
You do, but see, the problem, Brad, is the country
the
is
president
so
clearly
polarized.
doesn't.
The president doesn't, and half the country believes this garbage. And so there's a cumulative effect. If you're accused of being a pedophile, you're accused of running drugs or cheating on your wife, and that becomes a punchline. And let's just say it's not true. I mean, in the Bill Clinton case, he tried to pretend it wasn't true, and then we find out, oh my gosh, he really is messing around with the intern, which would get you fired, it would get me fired, it would be a problem. But somehow he thought he was immune
Well,
from the
he was the
standards of
most
society.
he was the most moral president in history because he wanted to expand Medicare. So
He
that
gets
was
a
the
pass
line.
on everything.
That was the line at the time.
But
If you're in favor of socialized medicine, you're a moral person. So
they don't
we'll
care whatever you do.
overlook
But
your
these
as long as
things
I'm
have a
getting what I want.
cumulative effect in the public.
I don't doubt that at all. I mean,
Yeah.
I think sometimes there is a tendency to view what's happening now as the worst in history. Really, what used to be called yellow journalism
Right.
was sort of the rule of thumb. Certainly in the early days of the printing press, certainly in the early days of this nation, certainly through the late 1800s and the turn of the century, the sort of professional journalism, objective fact school of thought really came about through the college journalism programs of the early 20th century. And I think even under the guise of objectivity, there were subtle ways that there was a lot of advocacy going on, but it was more subtle. A lot of times it was in the sense of you got 2 points of view. Who do you interview live on the air? Now it's just vitriol, and it's extremely hard today to find any sort of objective information. What you end up doing is hearing the rabid dogs from both sides and trying to decide what's believable and what's not. And of course, if you bring your own biases to the table, you kind of got an idea of who you're going to believe, who you're not, and who you're
Well,
going
that's
to
an ethical
retweet or
dilemma
that kind of thing.
for the
I mean,
journalist and for the audience. But here's the problem: you get a news publication or something that claims to be a news publication. They run a headline that they know is erroneous.
Mhm.
The headline lives forever on the internet, right? I mean,
Well,
it's there.
the sponsor can take down that web page. And there have been times when people have done that and been forced to print apologies. We see more of this in England, which has a stronger defamation standard than America does. In America, the main thing is there's been this willingness to constrain defamation law because of our commitment to free speech through the First Amendment and the principles behind it. And the idea is, don't chill speech in the sense of don't intimidate people into not speaking, let people have their say. The courts will not generally allow for what's called a prior restraint, meaning you can't get, say, an injunction, tell that guy to shut up, tell him to stop saying that. There have been a number of times, of course, when the government has tried to use pressure to stop people from saying things. And it's very evident at this point in time that the Biden administration was very active in trying to squelch certain voices on the internet during their years. And anybody who says otherwise is rowing upstream against a wealth of sworn testimony and documentation. So we know that the government is still active in trying to silence voices. I think it's important that we oppose that and that we err to the side of allowing speech to happen. But, it's kind of a thing. If you call somebody a Nazi or an extremist, that's unfortunate, but it's opinion language. It's not really anything that you could do defamation over. If you say that Trump was on the island or insinuate that he was, I think that's potentially a claim, although it's not the same as saying he raped women or he was a pedophile, if he just visited the island. It's pretty clear that Jeffrey Epstein was a rich guy. He was in New York City, and he networked with pretty much everybody that was in that sort of rarefied era of extraordinarily wealthy people, and then some of them got involved in his criminal activities. A lot of other people apparently had no idea what he was up to. I think any political candidate always has that problem of you take a donation, it comes in the mail, you're like, thank you for the money, you send a thank you letter, you don't even know who the person is. And the next thing you know, some reporter's calling you saying, do you renounce this person? Are you going to refund
You're
the
their
money?
best friend because
the money might have been spent by now. What am I supposed to do? So it's a tough situation for anyone in the public eye to have when it turns out that, you gave someone the benefit of the doubt and they turn out to be evil and you had no way of knowing. And clearly Trump was in touch with Epstein. There's been no evidence that I've seen that he engaged in any of the nefarious activities. There is enough out there that I think Bill Clinton should have to answer some questions. But I haven't seen anything come out yet with respect to Donald Trump. Now, I think the sooner they can finish all these tranches of documents they're releasing, the better, because anytime you're holding things back, it makes people's imaginations and suspicions run wild. But you've got a couple of problems with defamation cases. One is finding the person who said the thing. Does that person even have money? Because since you can't stop them from talking, you're limited to suing them for money, to compensate you for the harm. And a lot of these people are just, keyboard warriors. And then you've got the fact that
a judgment against them that might sober them up. And I'm telling you, Brad, we're entering into an era where we've seen relative civilization in America. But if this were to happen in the Middle East, somebody's house would be on fire, acid would be thrown on their face, and they might disappear in the middle of the night. And I don't want to see that in America.
That's why we call it the civil law system. I mean, we have criminal law and we have civil law. And the point of civil law is to try to work things out through a process that doesn't involve a fist fight or worse.
Yeah.
People get plenty angry about lawsuits. Believe me, I know. But the whole idea is to have some way to resolve things without that happening, without resort to violence. We've certainly seen a lot of people who think that being in opposition to something allows them to commit mayhem, vandalism, violence, to confront and push officers of the law just because you don't like what they're doing. There's no legal foundation for any of that, and all sorts of people are being led astray. And there's a lot of people who think that if it's the internet, they can say anything they want to. Well, it's not technically allowed. That you might get away with it. That's a different story. The other thing is, in defamation law, the U.S. Supreme Court for over 60 years now has had precedents that put extra barriers in place for public figures. And a public figure in certain contexts can be a celebrity, can be, I don't know, everybody's after Sydney Sweeney on the internet these days, or Taylor Swift. But certainly politicians on political matters are public figures, and there is no bigger public figure in the universe than Donald Trump. So he really doesn't have an avenue to do anything much in the defamation.
But you'd agree, saying that he is mentioned in the Epstein files supposedly 100,000 times. I don't know. I mean, that's the story today is, oh my gosh, Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein files more than Harry Potter's name is in the Harry Potter series. I don't know if that's true or not. That's what they're saying.
I doubt it.
That's one thing. To call him a pedophile and a rapist, which everybody seems very comfortable doing, these Democrats don't have any problem with it. That's a different accusation, and I think should come with a different standard of proof and burden of proof and responsibility.
I think even the president of the United States could bring a suit and survive initial challenges if someone called him a pedophile or a rapist or those sorts of things. Now, he has some problems with that, in the sense that to bring a defamation case and to get money, you have to show that there was a negative impact on your reputation or your economic standing. I don't think any of this affects Trump financially. Does it affect his reputation? Well, the people who support Trump seem to stand by him no matter what. The people who hate him already hate him and probably
well, maybe that's where the law needs to be tweaked.
So I'm not sure how much what they call sting can really be shown for a guy like Trump. Plus, he's got a problem in that he lost that one lawsuit up in New York where indirectly it was about whether he had raped this woman whose name escapes me at the moment. So that's always an albatross.
Yeah. And I just said she's a nut, but that's my opinion. Yeah.
Well, but she won. and it might have been a Manhattan jury and all of that, but in the end, there was full evidence. Both sides had their say. And so somebody can say, look, a New York jury found that he lied when he said she was lying about him, which means the New York jury believed that he raped her.
This is, but you bringing up this story is why I think more and more responsible people are losing faith in our legal process.
Well, and it's certainly why a lot of people won't enter politics. The general approach to this is that, you and I both know, you go to people that you wish would run for higher office, and they simply won't. They won't even run for low-level office because of what happens. I mean, certainly, I was defeated very narrowly for a lowly House of Delegates race. 1% of the state's population back in 2005. With some fairly scurrilous attacks. Some of it would repeat actual factual information, but then it would go on to things that were ridiculous. But you can't really stop it. And of course, when you're a candidate for office, it comes with the territory. So you do that. I used to joke with our mutual friend, George Allen, that I felt like I was the beta test for what happened to him a year later when, he saw a guy with a mohawk, accidentally said macaca, and the next thing you know, everybody was calling him a racist. Now they were doing it across 100% of the state. And what George Allen's defeat that year, I think, established to the satisfaction of the political animal was this stuff works. And so what you see with Democrats, for example, a guy like Matt Gaetz, if he's an up-and-comer, the idea is let's knock him out of the public discussion. Let's get rid of him. I mean, I honestly think that if George Allen had not had that happen, he might have become president of the United States. He certainly had a great opportunity to be the Republican nominee. But with the loss of his Senate seat, all that went by the boards. And where we are now is we're basically running good people out of the public square. And what's left? Yeah. What's left is the screaming banshees, the people who say things that are absolutely ridiculous, the AOCs and Bernie Sanders of the world. And also, it seems like an increasing percentage of these people are out and out crooks. The amounts of money that people are amassing in public office is mind-boggling. I think when you look at what the Bidens did, you have to say, why were they so bad at feathering their own nest? Look what the Clintons pulled off. How come the Bidens only got a tenth of that? And that's the message. You look at what's going on with Ilhan Omar, whose net worth seems to have exploded at a time when she makes approximately $200,000
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because my question is what we're hearing about her true? Her finances? I don't know. Well, I don't know what's true and what's not true. And the thing that's pissing me off is that these reporters and the people on the internet don't seem to have any obligation to document and defend the claims they're making. And here I am defending Ilhan Omar. Like, I don't know. I think she's a crook, but I don't know that I can prove that. So I need to be very careful before I make that assertion, Well,
with Ilhan Omar, the net worth figures come from public disclosures that she filed herself. Now, it's possible she delegated that to a staffer and they made mistakes. But you can look at the before and after numbers and you can see what they say, and it did come from her or her people. So when you see an explosion
but what's the
of
story
wealth
behind that?
The question is, is anyone going to ask her where that money came from?
Yeah.
Did she have a legitimate means of doing it? Nancy Pelosi was married to a rich guy, and so she can claim that they were already rich and they invested well and all that kind of thing. It still smells bad to me, but she's at least got a cover story. I don't know how AOC or Ilhan Omar or those people can justify it. To me, it's a fair question. The fact that they don't answer it isn't helping me believe them. Yeah. But it's not evidence. As they say, without evidence, you have this suspicion. Right. You see smoke, you wonder if there's fire. But if I were reporting it, that's what I would say is this raises a fair question, and the fact that they're not answering it is only fueling the suspicions. But
it's a weird situation for me to be in, because as someone who advocates for free speech, I mean, I guess I'm no longer a free speech purist, because I see the free speech lies destroying a lot of people, and I think something's got to be done about that. And I'm not sure, I don't want to be in a country where you can't investigate Bill Clinton and find out that he is lying right to your face and that he is doing something that everybody else would be fired for. He should be held accountable for that kind of behavior as an executive, just like the CEO of a company would be held accountable for that behavior.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing you've got to keep in mind, though, John, is you say there's the old saying, well, it couldn't be worse. And the rejoinder is always, oh, yeah, it could be worse.
Yeah.
I mean, you say this is bad, and it is bad. But what's the alternative? The alternative is that some government entity starts policing what is said and not said. And that is worse. I mean, that is
or the
what
alternative
the Bidens were
is
doing
that
on
the
the
person,
internet.
The alternative is that the
there's-
person who's been wronged can much more easily and affordably challenge the person who's making the argument against them, like put up or shut up.
Well,
I will
easily
tell
and
you, in my
affordably
case, that's what
is-
I did. I said, if you're going to make an accusation against me, I want to see what you're talking about. And then
Right.
then it all started to fall apart. Like, oh, okay, I see what's happening here.
The easily and the affordably thing is another topic for another day. I've
Okay.
spent now over 40 years focusing on civil lawsuit work.
Right.
And I will tell you that the number one problem in our field is that it costs way too much. And we're a small entrepreneurial firm. We don't, you see reports of $1 million fees from major cases. You certainly see, even from just Northern Virginia, high six-figure fees. Our firm doesn't engage in that kind of thing, but it's still bad. An average person who makes a $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 annual salary and takes home
Can't
40
do
of
it.
that, and you talk about a civil lawsuit that might cost them conservatively 60 or 80,000 after tax cash to pursue. We're not doing a great job of providing a pathway for people to get justice. And I'll tell you, it's getting worse instead of better. And in all candor, one of the main problems we've got is that the system is in the hands of lawyers who have admittedly a perverse incentive to make it worse instead of better.
Right.
Well,
I'm glad you said that, not me, because
I
think
mean,
you're
there
right.
are times when I speak out against it, and the response is kind of like, "What's wrong with you?"
Mhm. We want to make money.
Don't make this up. Don't mess this up for us.
Yeah.
And it's a problem. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's not unique to defamation. It's really all things
Right.
that we are not doing a good job of giving people a cost-effective way to vindicate their rights.
Here's
Any
and
kind of
and
rights.
and this is where the society falls apart. When the average person reaches the conclusion, the average normal responsible person reaches the conclusion, this is rigged against me and I have no choice but to act out in with behaviors that you would get in the third world. And I think we're barreling towards that on a bunch of different levels. And I think it's deliberate on the part of some people to create this type of social upheaval and dissatisfaction. We got a big problem on our hands. Well, let's pick up the conversation when I can bring you back. And I'm sure we'll have lots of tough stuff to talk about. And I appreciate your flexibility this morning. The former member of the House of Delegates, Attorney Brad Mars. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, John.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, let's take a quick break, and producer Dan will join us. We'll go through a couple of other topics that we wanted to talk about, and and then wrap things up on this Thursday edition of the Reid Revolution. I mean, that was interesting to talk to Brad about that.
Yeah, no, did he now I obviously he got into some issues about the elements of defamation, but did he actually say what the elements are? I don't know if he
No, we
listed
didn't
them
do
out.
the primer of it must.
Should I do that really fast? 'Cause I know that I know this.
Okay, well, tell me. That's right. I
Okay,
forget
so-
sometimes.
Yes,
Producer
okay.
Dan studied law at William and Mary, graduated from William and Mary Law. So, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So
All right.
you need to have a statement, either spoken or written. So oral or written. And by the way, verbal. People often say verbal as if that's a synonymous, or they'll conflate verbal with oral. Oral means spoken. Verbal does not necessarily mean spoken. Verbal can be written. Verbal, that's meaning verbiage. So oral or written. If it's oral, of course, he said that means slander. Written is libel. Needs to be heard by at least one third party. So if you and I are talking and it's just a private conversation, and I say something awful about you, or you say something awful about me, and nobody else hears it, it's not defamatory because that's
just between
us.
us. We got to work.
So a third party has to hear it. He was right. It has to be something that causes harm to your reputation.
Right.
And then, depending on the severity of the statement, one thing, if it's a false statement, if you can prove that it's false, that's big, because you could say, look, you said something about me that's not true. I can prove that it's not true.
Now, I'm glad you said this. Do you have to prove it's false, or do they have to prove it's true? There's a different standard.
Well, this is where I say it depends. And he's right about something, and I don't like this. And you definitely count as a public person at this point. I probably am on the verge of counting as a public person if I'm not already at that point.
Well, you're doing a podcast, so
yes. So somebody could say at this point, well, it doesn't matter that I said these horrible things about Dan. He's a public person. I hate this. I hate this designation. I hate it because I don't think it's right. And I think you're with me on this. But yes, the standard.
Well, I don't think the
applies
truth goes out the window.
Correct, and it doesn't.
And
it
your
doesn't.
obligation not to lie about somebody just because they're in the public sphere.
It doesn't. But
you can call somebody an a-hole. You can call somebody a radical. You can call somebody an incompetent. And if you're in the public sphere, I think that does change it. I don't know that you can do that to the average person, but in the public sphere, okay. But if you say this person is stealing money, okay, you just made an allegation.
Yeah.
Prove to me that they're stealing money. You say this person is molesting children. Okay, you just made a very, very potent allegation. Yes. You need to prove it. They don't need to disprove it. You need to prove it.
Yes.
Or am I wrong on that?
Well, no, you're not. And as we discovered with the ABC situation with Donald Trump, they said that he was a rapist. He sued them, and then it was like, okay, ABC settled because I think they knew they were going to be.
They wanted it to go away. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they were going to be in trouble because of the situation. Mm-hmm. I don't think they would have settled, quite honestly, if they didn't think this could be a problem for us. We're going to have some liability here because this was
not just political consequences. But financial liability.
So, and the standard here is the statement either needs to be untrue or recklessly made in disregard of the truth, that basically to the point of being malicious. And with a public person, I think with Trump, that was the issue with that statement, and that's why I think ABC was in a position where they said, we better just sort of settle this because I don't think we're gonna find that we're on firm legal ground here. But yeah, now, and I'll dovetail really quickly because I talk about this all the time. You'll have people out there who say on the subject of proving something to be false or whatever. Oh, well, you can't prove a negative. Yes, you can. You absolutely can prove a negative by means of a counterpositive. For instance, goodness forbid somebody is murdered right now. You and I could prove that we didn't pull the trigger because we were on this podcast and millions of people saw us like, well, it wasn't John or it wasn't Dan, because we could see them on camera in their respective homes, clearly without a gun in their hand or somebody else around to kill.
Gotcha.
The only time when you can't prove a negative, and this is a lot of the time, but you can't prove a negative if you don't have the means of being able to show some sort of a counter positive. If
I don't
somebody
get it. What are you saying?
So if
you started an example,
yes, so if I'm alone in the woods, somewhere and nobody can see me or hear me or whatever else, and somebody makes this accusation, I just say, oh well, Dan killed a guy. It's like, well, prove that you didn't do this or whatever else. Well, I can't really prove that because nobody was around to see me.
It wasn't
or hear
on the
me or whatever.
podcast. I was camping in the woods. And there's no camera and there's no
right. But that's when you can't prove a negative.
But I still think, I think, all right, let's use that example. You shouldn't say Dan killed somebody unless you can back it up. Now, if you want to say it's weird, Dan had a big fight with this guy and then he suddenly goes camping, and I don't think Dan goes camping, and that's weird. We should talk to Dan about that and try to figure out what was really going on. That seems legitimate to me.
Right.
But see, it's reporters, as I mentioned, as a former reporter, the reporter, me, thought, if I'm about to go on the TV and I'm about to say something, if someone questions any aspect of the story, can I document it? Can I show that what I said is true? And if I can't document it, is it appropriate for me to offer a caveat, like police are investigating? I have been told through my sources that police are investigating so-and-so. That's dangerous too, because once you've said it, now that person is stained with whatever they're being investigated for. Hypothetically, you better be able to document that. I mean, you got to be able to back that up.
Yeah, and back to the defamation point, an absolute defense to defamation is if somebody can prove that what was said was in point of fact true. I could say something awful about John Reid to a third party that you say caused you harm, but it's true. Here's the proof.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Yeah,
listen, I'm not trying to defend bad people.
I don't mean to use an example, but I'm just saying.
Oh, no, look, it's all okay. But I mean, I'm not trying to defend people who do questionable things or illegal things. I'm not trying to defend that. I'm just saying it seems to me, and again, now that I'm 55 years old and I've lived a little bit, the standard or the restraint seems to have dropped. I know what I went through as a reporter, and the questions that the local editors, I mean, these are just local people too, not national people, would ask before we ran a story. And this was without the amplification of social media. So one reporter being reckless and irresponsible or deliberately putting something into the pipeline that's not true, and they know it's not true, and not doing that legwork, can destroy somebody's life because the headline is out there forever. You're never going to get it to completely go away. So what do you do if people don't have morals or ethical professional standards? If that's disappeared and doesn't exist anymore, what do you do to make the average person, well, first of all, the professional person, and then the average person think twice before they hit send or post? Like, I want someone, whether you're 16 years old or you're 60 years old, to think, oh, God, if someone were to come after me, am I spreading a lie? I grew up in a time where, I don't know whether it was a church or the Boy Scouts or probably a combination of the two. You just don't tell lies about people, and you have to check yourself. Is this true? Or am I going to be known as the town gossip who constantly repeats things that aren't true? You learn the hard way when somebody punches you in the face. Then you go, oh my God, maybe I shouldn't do that anymore, right? But no, that doesn't happen. It seems that doesn't happen anymore.
Maybe not enough. I don't know.
But my point is, to Brad there,
frontier.
If we don't get
this
justice under control, street justice is going to be the new thing. I mean, I think we're headed towards an era of vigilantism in America that is going to be shocking, where people say, well, you know what? I don't have $1 million, and I don't trust the courts, and I don't think anybody's going to take care of this. I'm going to take care of it myself. And bad stuff is going to happen to a lot of people, and that's not good for us. I'm not advocating that. That's not good for us.
How do I say this? Imagine, if you will, if you were somebody who depended on the courts, relied on the courts, put your confidence, your trust in the courts to do the right thing, and went through all of the hoops.
And they betrayed you.
And they betrayed you.
Yeah.
In a big way.
Yeah.
what are you supposed to do? Just throw up your hands and say, well, that's that. Is justice a virtue or is it not? And if justice is a
what
virtue,
is it they say? What is it the kids say now? That's the oh gosh, it's not. That's your superheroes. That's your what created the Penguin and what created the Joker in Batman? What do they call that? That's your villain moment.
origin story. No,
your villain origin story.
Okay,
I've seen this a couple of times, and that's something that's interesting to me because we used to only see in the movies the story of the hero and how the hero became the hero. Now there is a movement. I don't read comic books, so I don't know, but there is a movement to say, let's tell the story of how the person turned into the villain and whether they, something awful happened to them. No one defended them. They were wronged. And now we all think they're a villain, but they're avenging, right or wrong, what happened to them.
Right now, I think we're talking about the origin story of Batman, not the Joker or the Penguin. I mean, I think this is the idea of somebody who says, well, if I don't do something, we're just going to continue to go down this path of injustice. And no kidding, Nancy, I'm reading your comment. That is absolutely 100% true. I can vouch for that firsthand.
Yeah. Well, I think it's become. I think the defamation issue is becoming a big deal every year that goes by. The more platforms that are out there, and can I tell you, I think we have a new generation of people who they have not been given any kind of moral guidance or education. The stuff that I was raised with of, is it true? I used to have a ruler here. Maybe it's from the Rotary Club or the Kiwanis Club that said the rules of, is it true? Does it help? Does it? Oh my gosh!
I
wish
find
you know what I'm talking about.
That. Yeah,
hold on.
No, I don't know,
I may
but
still have that ruler.
You've piqued my interest immediately.
Hold on, real quick.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, and they gave me a ruler that had, I don't know, is it Kiwanis? It might be Kiwanis. 4 rules. Is it true? Let's just see what the internet tells me real quick.
Okay.
And I know we got to go.
That's it. Yeah, it's fine. No, this is good stuff. I think, anyway. I hope our listeners and viewers think the same thing. But yeah. The
4-way test. All right, hold on.
4-way test. Okay.
Hold on, let me find it.
I'm going to contemplate it based on my own.
I had it. The ruler was actually of no use to me, but I thought what was printed on the ruler, it was a metal ruler, and I think it was supposed to be like a paperweight. Hold on. Yeah, Here it is, the Rotary Club. The 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Question mark. Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? All right, well, that's in a group where you're trying to get along with everybody and presumably everyone's there on their own accord for the right reasons. That's a legitimate thing to think. I don't think that applies to mainstream society. And then fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? So if you are in an office or you're in a group, I think all of those tests, the 4-way test, is legit. But I think no matter where you are, you should ask yourself, is this the truth? I do it. Think about the stuff I've said about Ralph Northam. And, I defended Ralph Northam at the beginning. I was like, God, is this real? I mean, and then Justin Fairfax. I was one of the few people who defended Justin Fairfax when he was lieutenant governor and they were making all these awful.
No, he got hosed. He got totally.
He did, I think. I don't think he did these awful things they accused him of. And my question on the radio at the time was, is this the truth? The timing of it, where it pops up right when he's about to take over as governor for Ralph Northam, and then now he's accused of being, I don't even want to repeat what was said about him. It's really awful accusations. And I said on the radio, and everybody else was like, and even the Democrats, all these Democrats, Ghazala Hashmi, I think Abigail Spanberger, but certainly goes, we got it. Justin Fairfax has to go. And I'm like, wait a minute. Why am I defending a Democrat? You shouldn't treat this man this way. If you can't prove it, you shouldn't be attacking him this way.
Yeah,
and I still think the guy's never been treated right.
Yeah. At the very
Democrats did to They did that to their own guy. Imagine what they will do to someone who's not their own
which,
guy.
by the way, the presumption of innocence means being biased toward the accused.
Right. Exactly.
Judges, I haven't been in enough courtrooms to know what judges' instructions are to the juries, but the judges should be instructing juries that they are supposed to be biased toward the defendant. That is what presumption of innocence means. You are supposed to be thinking in your mind, that prosecutor over there better have a gosh good darned reason why we're supposed to deprive our fellow citizen of his liberty. And unless he does,
do start to
you say
reveal,
no.
You do start to reveal to yourself your own biases. Remember, last January, I got called to be on the jury in Henrico.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Maybe I took a day off, or I don't know, or I left right after the show and went to the courthouse. Ultimately, I didn't get picked to be on the jury, which was more of like random. I just didn't pick the right color or whatever it was. But they explained the case. And I will tell you in all candor, the case was a lady who is a black lady. And she was accused, I think, if I remember correctly, it was like selling reselling. I don't know if it was prescription drugs. I don't know. But I had to check my own. I think I'm a pretty fair guy. I had to check my own bias. Like, I'm looking at this lady. She looks pretty basic. I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, but I started to think in my head, oh, well, she did it. And I thought, well, wait a minute, that's unfair for me. I don't know this lady. For all I know, she's working 12-hour days cleaning toilets, trying to put food on the table. How do I know that she didn't get ratted out by somebody who wants to screw her over? I need to check my own attitude here. No one's presented anything other than an allegation against her. That's the only thing that's happened. And I'm already in my head, I could feel myself thinking, well, she probably did it. And I had to check myself.
Well, probably isn't good enough. Quite candidly. Probably isn't
well,
good
that's
enough.
not my point. My point is
yeah.
checking your own bias.
Right.
Checking your own bias. And I don't think, I mean, I went through some of that as a reporter, some of that training as a reporter, but just as a person who I will say, you know, what happened to me last year isn't the first time that people have tried to smear me. You know, that happens a lot, especially with gay guys. There's just, I don't know, everybody feels like it's okay. You're going to burn in hell anyway, so let's trash the hell out of you while you're on earth. I think there's this general attitude about that, and I have fought back against it and tried to present myself and conduct myself in a way where that I wasn't vulnerable to that. But, you know, just using that example in Henrico, I was looking at this lady and I was like, if I were sitting there and someone accused me of something, I would hope that the person would check their own biases and say, now, wait a minute. Yeah, it's conceivable, but you got to prove it. And I'm just seeing more and more cases where I don't think anybody bothers to prove it. They just throw the allegation out and then they move on. And the person's sitting there with a wrecked life.
Yeah, look at how many cases are pleaded out. Where and look at how they get pleaded out, where the government basically threatens defendants with additional prosecution or additional procedural hurdles.
I know. And that's
not
how they
okay.
get a guilty plea.
That's not okay. And Alan Dershowitz, among others, has talked about how this is completely inappropriate and totally unconstitutional, that you should not be punished for demanding a jury trial.
Yeah.
That is your procedural right, your civil constitutional
Do lawyers have these conversations? When they
Not
have
enough.
these big lawyer
Not nearly
conferences,
enough.
when they have these big lawyer conferences at the Homestead and the Greenbrier and the Cavalier, and it's $1,000 a night, do they actually sit down and go, you know, maybe we should perfect our own industry? Or
if my experience in law school is any indication, not nearly enough.
Yeah.
They'd
All
rather
right. Well,
just
we're
go out
running
and
up
get
against the
crocked.
clock.
Oh, and may I
let
say
me
really
end
quickly,
with
John?
something-
Oh, very quickly, just goodness forbid that the source of the defamation be the actual government. Then you're really screwed.
Yeah, I'm certain. All right, well, let's end on something positive. I didn't get to talk about the Ramadan issue because of the time, so I'll have to pick that up tomorrow. Let's make a note to do that tomorrow. But the Olympics start tomorrow, and I know a lot of people are trying to hold on to sanity and be inspired. And as long as the Olympics steers clear of politics and like the crazy trans stuff and all of that, I think it's great. I think there's so many inspirational stories of people who work really hard. This is their moment to win a gold medal or at least to compete in the Olympics. I mean, it's really just the best stories you'll hear. And it starts tomorrow. This is in Milan. It's the Winter Olympics. So you can watch the Olympic opening ceremony, I think live at 2 o'clock. I don't know if Channel 12, the NBC station here locally, will have it, but it will certainly be online with whatever their thing is, the Peacock that nobody watches. But let me show you the torch that is being used, because I used to collect. Now I don't have the money to, but I used to collect. I have a couple. I have the Seoul Olympic torch up there. I'll show it to you tomorrow, and then Vancouver.
This is the picture of the torch bearer that you want me to show.
Well, yeah. Let's show you the torch now. I'm going to talk about the torch bearer too. I think this is weird, but this is the torch for the Milan Winter Olympics, and of course that's Snoop Doggy Dogg. God, what is up with that? I don't think this is a very beautiful torch, because each one, it changes every Olympics. It's a different designer who creates a torch, and the best one was the Los Angeles 1984 Olympics. It was classic. I have that. I used to have it hanging on the wall because I thought it was so beautiful. I mean, just everything about it, to me, my aesthetic is perfect. It's classic. It looks like it came right out of Athens, but with an American update to it. I just, as an object, if you love an object, I just think it's amazing. This one's okay, I guess. Everybody has this modern aesthetic that shiny metal, smooth shiny metal is some. Is that an achievement?
Do I dare ask the question?
What?
Did he ask them to make it look like a blunt?
Oh, wow. Maybe it does it? I guess it does.
Kind of looks like a wrapped up blunt. Not that I'm terribly familiar with that, but it kind of looks.
You know
like
what? No one else has said that, Dan. That's interesting.
It kind of.
And then here's
not exactly
somebody tell me why everyone is so enamored by Snoop Doggy Dogg. Well, I mean, they've even got hats that say Coach Snoop. Somehow this guy. And I guess I'm harsh on him because remember 2 years ago,
I do,
or maybe it was 4 years ago, I was really not really nice about Snoop Doggy Dogg.
I think it was a couple of years ago because I remember the text line at WRVA.
And people were like hostile to me, like, you don't know, Snoop is the best. Snoop does all this. And then I went and I was like, all right, maybe I'm being unfair. And I listened to some of his music, which isn't my type of music, but whatever. If you like that, I don't know.
He's a Steelers fan, so I tend to stay mum on him. That's the only thing. But yeah,
because he's a Steelers fan, you don't have a problem.
Fan.
You can do anything you want as long as you're a Steelers fan. Okay. But here, this is the picture of the Olympic torch. Is Snoop Doggy Dogg carrying this thing? How has he gotten himself in with the Olympics? Like, he is one of the Olympic mascots for the American team now, it seems.
I must say, it really is amazing how overexposed as a public person he really seems to be. I just wouldn't have guessed
he and Martha Stewart. I mean, at least that was
that's right. Yeah, they have some
the
bromance.
yin and the yang. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. She's so prim and proper. He's the opposite of that. And then they act. I don't know if they're really friends or not. It's media, so who knows? But they acted like they were such buddies. There's something weird. What is the fascination with Snoop Doggy Dogg? I just am not. I don't know. It's not. He's not my type of guy. It's just not my thing. Looks wise, attitude wise,
right?
What he promotes. And it's just weird that the Olympics and NBC in particular have chosen him as the guy that they're going to use to front all of this. I would think that you would pick, I don't know, one of these athletes, a real athlete who has just been amazing and is really disciplined. I mean, Snoop Doggy Dogg is the opposite of discipline. Is that unfair for me to say? Right? Like most potheads. Is it fair for me to call him a pothead? Is that unreasonable?
I think that's a totally fair.
Right. Most of his music was about smoking pot. Is that correct or is that not correct? Or am I making an assumption again?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask, but that would be my presumption based
So
on his
most
public
people I
image.
know who are potheads are not very disciplined people,
Right.
and that's one reason they love pot is that it kind of it clears them of any guilty feeling about not being disciplined or not doing what they should do. I mean, and it's recreational, and so maybe if apparently I'm the last person in the world who's never smoked pot ever. I don't do that. And it, nowadays I've been at parties, even as an adult, where people are like, oh yeah, John, why don't you? And I'm like, you know what? I've made it into my 50s. I've never done this. I'm not doing it now. And I don't know how I would react to it. That's the other thing that scares me. Like if I smoked pot, would I be mellow and laughing in the corner, which is also kind of unappealing to me. This kind of numb, stupid glare, glazed over eyes where you can't do anything. That's my perception of the potheads. I just don't. That's not appealing to me. If you were to say, "Here, take this pill," and you will have creative ideas and you will be energized and you will get stuff done and you'll just be on fire. Now that would be more appealing to me. I probably still wouldn't do it, but that
just
would be
described
like
the
Speed.
plot of the movie Limitless.
Speed would be something that I would be more inclined to do rather than. So what is it about Snoop Dogg, Doggy Dog? Why would the Olympics and NBC be so enamored about pairing him with people who I think, by and large, are the exact opposite of what he presents, or my perception? I will say it's my perception. I mean, Snoop Doggy Dogg ain't ever going to the Olympics, even if he had athletic talent, because he doesn't appear to be motivated enough to do that.
Well, he's clearly a very popular guy. He's on a lot of the football broadcasts. He's on the late night shows.
Is he on the football broadcast? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. He's all over the place. I'd be surprised if he's not featured at the Super Bowl in some capacity.
Really?
He's a big football fan, a big Steelers fan, as I said. But
whoever his agent is has done a great job.
Did a great job. Yeah.
I mean, that I can admire. For people like me who've kind of been treading water in the lower levels of media for decades, and this guy is with, I would argue, very limited talent, got millions and millions and millions of dollars and millions of fans and I just think that's weird to me. Good for his agent, and he's managed to make it in life. And one of my rules that I would put on my ruler is don't begrudge other people their success. And boy, it's hard sometimes. But if somebody else is successful, that doesn't mean you can't. It doesn't prevent you from being successful. So if you spend all your time being jealous of other people or trying to tear down other people, then you're just doing harm to yourself. And I've tried to. I don't know. All right. Well, we're
like
out of
you,
time.
I've never done drugs. Don't drink alcohol. The whole thing. So yeah, it's been.
You don't drink any alcohol?
No.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. No.
Have you ever?
I mean, every now and then somebody will say, "Oh, here, try this. You'll love it." And I'm like that. No, it tastes like.
Oh, so on a Friday night, if you were to go to dinner, you wouldn't have a bottle of wine or something?
No desire.
Really?
No desire.
Last year, I didn't drink at all last year.
Yeah.
And that was before the bad stuff happened. I just felt like I have to be on it. I have to be sober. I have to be thinking. Who knows what might happen? And the second you get a little tipsy, you say or do something that might be a problem. And I just felt like I needed to give it up. And, now when Alonzo and I were on vacation, I guess I had a couple of drinks, but I don't even like it. It's not. Anyway, we got to go.
Anybody who likes it, I just never appealed to me.
We're out of time. All right.
Yep.
We'll show the cauldron for the Milan Olympics tomorrow. We'll talk about the Ramadan situation and some stuff that's happened in Texas. Of course, we'll bring you up to date on the other news tomorrow morning on the Reid Revolution. Give us a like and follow us on both of our Facebook pages and all the social media. It really is very helpful. If you feel like giving us a good review, that would be nice. And I hope you have and send us an email if you've got an idea for the show or want to advertise, the reidrevolution@gmail.com. Have a great Thursday, everybody.